They laughed at him. They called him worthless. They said a poor man like him should never even dream of proposing to the chief's daughter. But what the village didn't know was that the same man they mocked was hiding a truth so powerful that it could shake the entire kingdom. Because the man they humiliated, the man they threw stones at, the man they tried to chase away, was not poor, was not ordinary, and was definitely not who they thought he was. On the night they publicly shamed him, they believed they had destroyed his life forever. But years later, during the biggest celebration the village had ever seen, as drums thundered and music filled the air, a sound cut through the sky that froze every single person in their tracks. A helicopter, descending slowly, right into the middle of the wedding. And when the doors opened, the entire village fell silent, because the man they once mocked stepped out like royalty, revealing a truth so shocking that even the chief dropped to his knees. What happened next, no one in the village will ever forget. The village of Mabla was famous for many things: its golden banana fields, its loud markets, its gossip-loving women, and its endless habit of judging people by what they owned rather than who they were. But above all, Mabla was famous for its pride. No one understood this better than Zubri, a young man who had only one shirt, 2 pairs of torn trousers, and a small mud house with a leaking roof. He was known as the village nobody. Children laughed when he walked by barefoot. Shopkeepers refused to give him credit, and old men sitting under the baobab tree often whispered, "That boy will die poor. Mark my words." But what the village never knew was that Zubri was not just a poor man. Behind that dusty face, behind those worn-out clothes, behind that quiet smile, was a secret so powerful it could silence the entire country. Only one person treated him with kindness: Amina, the daughter of the wealthiest cattle owner in Mabla. She had a gentle heart, soft brown eyes, and a smile that could calm a storm. While others mocked Zubri, Amina always greeted him warmly. Sometimes, she would secretly give him food when no one was watching. Sometimes she would ask him how his day was, even when others ignored him. And with time, Zubri's heart quietly began to fall for her. He tried to fight it. He tried to hide it. But love, especially forbidden love, is a fire that never goes out. Amina, too, felt something she couldn't explain. She admired his humility. She respected his silence. And she was drawn to the mysterious sadness in his eyes, a sadness that hinted he carried more burdens than any man should. But love in Mabla was not simple. Amina's father, Chief Mwana, believed in one thing: a rich girl must marry a richer man. The chief was feared by everyone. He owned 400 cattle, acres of farmland, and the biggest house in the district. Men bowed when he passed. Women lowered their eyes. No one dared to speak against him. So when Zubri finally gathered courage, after months of silent suffering, and walked to the chief's compound to propose, the entire village followed him like hungry hyenas. They wanted entertainment. They wanted drama. And most of all, they wanted to laugh. When Zubri reached the compound, he found Amina, her father, her relatives, and almost half the village waiting. The chief glared at him like he was a bug that needed to be crushed. Zubri cleared his throat and spoke with a trembling but sincere voice. "Chief Mwana, I have come to ask for Amina's hand in marriage." For 2 seconds, just 2, there was complete silence. And then, the entire village exploded with laughter. Old women slapped their thighs. Young men bent over with tears in their eyes. Children rolled in the dust. Even the chief's guards laughed so hard their spears nearly dropped. The chief stepped forward, his voice full of insult. "You, Amina's husband, you have no money, no cattle, no family, no land. You are nothing. How dare you dream of marrying my daughter?" Zubri swallowed the humiliation. He didn't shout. He didn't cry. He simply said, "I love her with all my heart." The chief spit on the ground. Love does not feed a family. Money does. And then, with the arrogance of a king, he commanded, "Get out of my compound before I have you dragged out like a stray dog." Amina's eyes filled with tears, but she could do nothing. She watched the man she secretly loved walk away, slowly, painfully, with villagers laughing behind him. But something strange happened. For the first time in years, Zubri's calm expression changed. There was fire in his eyes, determination, purpose. He stopped at the gate, turned around, and said in a quiet but powerful voice, "One day, this village will know who I truly am." Nobody believed him. They laughed even louder. They mocked him until sunset. But they had no idea. Zubri was not the poor man they thought he was. His real identity, his real power, his real story, would return to Mabla like a storm that destroys everything in its path. And when that storm arrived, the village would fall silent. The chief would kneel. And Amina would see the truth behind the man she loved. The sun was setting over Mabla as Zubri walked away from Chief Mwana's compound. The golden light fell on his back, stretching his shadow long and lonely across the red soil. The laughter behind him still echoed in the air, sharp, cruel, unforgettable. But unlike before, Zubri didn't feel small, he didn't feel defeated, not anymore. Somewhere deep inside him, something ancient and powerful had awakened. Zubri reached the edge of the village, where his tiny mud house sat alone beside the old river. He pushed open his door and stood inside the dim, quiet room. The walls were cracked, the roof leaked, the floor was bare. To the world, this was the home of a nobody. But hidden beneath a wooden plank under his bed, was a small metal box. Old, dusty, locked with a brass latch. Zubri knelt, opened the box, and stared at its contents. A golden ring with a royal crest. A document sealed with the insignia of the Kingdom of Bulunda. A letter written by his late father. A necklace carved in ancient stone. A royal emblem known only to the royal family. He touched each item with trembling fingers. I tried to live as an ordinary man, he whispered to himself, but they have forced my destiny back into my hands. The world believed he was a poor village boy, but the truth was far greater. Zubri was the last surviving heir of one of Africa's most powerful royal bloodlines. His father, King Baraka, had been betrayed and overthrown when Zubri was a child. Loyal guardians smuggled him out of the palace in the dead of night and hid him in Mabla under a false identity. For years, Zubri lived quietly, waiting for the right moment to reclaim what was his. But he had never expected that moment to come because of love. Back at the chief's mansion, Amina sat on her bed, trembling with anger and heartbreak. Her mother entered the room softly. "Amina, my child, he is not for you." Amina wiped her eyes. "Mama, you don't understand. Zubri is kind. He's humble. He has a good heart." Her mother sighed deeply. "This village will never allow a rich girl to marry a poor man. Your father especially." Amina stood, her voice shaking. "Then the village is blind." Her mother held her gently, but even her comfort couldn't calm Amina's storm. She didn't love Zubri because he was rich or poor. She loved him because he saw her soul before he saw her beauty. But now, the whole village had humiliated him. And that humiliation cut her heart like a knife. By morning, Mabla was buzzing with gossip like bees in a broken hive. "Did you see that poor boy yesterday? He actually wanted to marry Amina. What a joke. Does he think love fills a stomach?" Chief Mwana almost threw him out. By noon, even the children were singing songs mocking Zubri. People love cruelty when they think their target is powerless. But they didn't know. Zubri was anything but powerless. Late that afternoon, a rider on a tall black horse arrived in Mabla. He carried a sealed envelope marked with a symbol no one recognized, an ancient crest of lions and spears. The rider stopped at the chief's compound. "I have a message for the man called Zubri," he announced. Everyone gathered in confusion. "Zubri? That poor boy, who would send him a message?" The rider's voice grew deeper. "It comes from the High Council of Bulunda." The villagers froze. That name alone carried weight. The council was known across regions for handling matters of royal importance. The chief stepped forward, alarmed. "What business does the council have with a village beggar?" "That," the rider said firmly, "is not for you to question." He turned his horse around and galloped away. Whispers erupted instantly. What is happening? Why would a royal council write to someone like Zubri? Is he in trouble? Or, is he hiding something? Amina's heart began to race. "This is not normal," she whispered. "Something about Zubri, something big, is hidden." That night, while everyone else slept, Amina wandered restlessly outside her home. She needed fresh air, but more than that, she needed answers about Zubri. As she passed near the baobab tree, she overheard two old men whispering. "Do you remember King Baraka? A great king, taken down by traitors. I heard rumors years ago, that his son survived. Some say the boy was hidden among common people." Amina stepped closer, her heart pounding. The old men continued. "They say the boy would grow as a poor man, until the time came for him to rise and reclaim the kingdom. But no one knows where he is. He could be anywhere, even in a village like ours." Amina covered her mouth, her eyes widening. A royal heir living as a poor villager. Could it be? "No," she whispered. "It can't be, Zubri." But her heart knew the truth before her mind did. Back in his small house, Zubri sat by a candle, rereading his father's last letter. "One day, my son, you will rise. Your people will call your name again. But before that day comes, life will test your heart." He closed the letter slowly. He had wished for a simple life. He had wished for peace. But fate had other plans. The humiliation he suffered had shaken him. And Amina's tears had awakened something powerful inside him. He stood, walked to the corner of the room, and lifted a folded cloth. Inside it lay a royal garment, dark blue with golden threads woven like rivers. He touched the cloth with trembling hands. "If the village wants to know who I truly am," he whispered, "then I will show them." By morning, the sky over Mabla darkened. Thick clouds formed like a warning. Wind rushed through the banana fields. Villagers woke confused. "What kind of weather is this? Something is coming. I can feel it." They had no idea how right they were. Amina stepped outside just as the first thunder cracked across the sky. Something in the air felt different, tense, electrifying. And at that exact moment, Zuberi stepped out of his house dressed in the royal colors of Bulunda, wearing the emblem of the Lion King around his neck. Amina saw him from across the fields. Her breath caught. Her hands shook. "Zuberi, what are you?" The village was about to find out, and the laughter they once used against him was about to turn into fear, respect, and disbelief. The morning Zuberi stepped out wearing the royal colors of Bulunda, the entire village felt different. The air was thicker. The wind was colder. Even the birds were strangely silent. It was as if Mabla itself sensed that the truth, hidden for decades, was finally rising. Zuberi walked through the dusty paths of Mabla with a calmness that didn't belong to a poor man. His posture was straight. His steps were firm. His eyes were cold but focused, no longer the soft, humble eyes the villagers knew. People stopped instantly. Farmers dropped their tools. Women carrying baskets froze mid-step. Children playing in the mud stared wide-eyed. One man whispered, "That necklace, where have I seen it?" Another gasped, "Those clothes, they look royal." A third man trembled, "I've only seen such garments on kings." For the first time in his life, no one laughed at Zuberi. They were too confused, too scared, too shocked. Amina, standing near the old well, nearly dropped the jug in her hands. She had never seen Zuberi like this, never seen such power in his presence, never felt such intensity in the air. He looked like someone walking straight out of a prophecy. She whispered under her breath, "Zuberi, this can't be real." She took a step forward, but her legs trembled. Word spread like wildfire. "Zuberi is coming. He's dressed like a king." Villagers rushed behind him, creating a trail. Not of laughter this time, but of awe, fear, and unease. Chief Mwana's guards at the gate lifted their spears as Zuberi approached. "Halt! State your..." But before the guard could finish, Zuberi raised his hand. Something about his gaze, cold, sharp, commanding, made the guard step back instantly without another word. No man with the spirit of a slave walks like a lion. Zuberi walked right past them. Inside, Chief Mwana was drinking morning tea, unaware of the storm approaching. When he looked up and saw Zuberi standing in front of him, wearing royal insignia, the chief choked on his tea. Word spread like wildfire. "Zuberi is coming. He's dressed like a king." Villagers rushed behind him, creating a trail. Not of laughter this time, but of awe, fear, and unease. Chief Mwana's guards at the gate lifted their spears as Zuberi approached. "Halt! State your..." But before the guard could finish, Zuberi raised his hand. Something about his gaze, cold, sharp, commanding, made the guard step back instantly without another word. No man with the spirit of a slave walks like a lion. Zuberi walked right past them. Inside, Chief Mwana was drinking morning tea, unaware of the storm approaching. When he looked up and saw Zuberi standing in front of him, wearing royal insignia, the chief choked on his tea. "You! What kind of joke is this?" Zuberi didn't blink. "Yesterday you humiliated me. Today, you will hear the truth." Mwana scoffed. "What truth? That you borrowed clothes and decided to pretend to be a king?" Zuberi slowly reached into his robe and pulled out a sealed scroll. A scroll with the golden crest of Bulunda. Several people gasped. Even the chief froze for a moment. No ordinary villager had access to such a seal. Zuberi handed it to him. "Read, and know who you insulted yesterday." The chief broke the seal with trembling hands. He unrolled the document. His face drained of color. His lips parted. His hands shook violently. The message was short but powerful. "To all who receive this letter, we announce the return of the rightful heir of the Bulunda kingdom, Prince Zuberi Baraka. Treat him with honor. The council approaches." The chief's teacup slipped from his fingers and shattered. You are, the king's son." Zuberi nodded once. The chief stumbled back, clutching his chest. This cannot be. The royal family was wiped out." "No," Zuberi said coldly, "you wiped out my dignity, not my bloodline." The chief dropped to his knees without realizing it. Villagers outside murmured. The poor man was a prince, a true heir. We mocked a king. Fear spread like wildfire. Amina arrived at the compound, pushed her way through the crowd, and locked eyes with Zubri. Her heart pounded. Why didn't you tell me, she whispered. Zubri's expression softened for the first time that morning. Because I wanted love, before power, before titles, before crowns. Amina stepped closer, tears filling her eyes. I didn't love you for power, Zubri. I loved you for your heart. Their closeness made the villagers whisper again. Chief Mwana, still kneeling, suddenly shouted. Amina, step away from him. Amina didn't move. She stood beside Zubri. The same man her father insulted, mocked, rejected. But now he was a prince, and suddenly the chief's authority meant nothing. Chief Mwana quickly switched his tone, sweating nervously. Prince Zubri, I did not know who you were. If I had known, I would have welcomed your proposal. Zubri looked at him with cold disappointment. Would you have welcomed my heart, or my crown? The chief stuttered. Well, of course, both. Zubri cut him off. Yesterday you called me nothing, remember? Silence fell like a blade. The chief's voice cracked. I made a mistake, your highness. A grave mistake. Zubri turned to the villagers, raising his voice. You judge people by money, by clothes, by wealth. And because of that, you humiliated me for simply loving a woman. The crowd lowered their heads in shame. Even the old gossipy women could not speak. Just as the atmosphere grew heavier, a loud horn echoed from the distant hills. Villagers turned. Again, the horn blew. Then another. And another. Dust rose from the horizon. Hoofbeats thundered. Drums pounded. Banners of gold waved in the air. A massive royal convoy was approaching Mabla. Soldiers in shining armor. Chariots carved with ancient symbols. Horses draped in royal cloth. And at the front, the High Council of Bulunda. The villagers panicked. The council is here. For him. Zubri is truly the prince. Amina grabbed Zubri's arm, breath shaking. What will you do now? Zubri looked toward the approaching royal army, his eyes burning with destiny. Now, he whispered. I take back everything they tried to steal from me. The villagers fell to their knees. Chief Mwana fell flat on his face. Amina stayed standing beside him. And the storm reached Mabla. The royal convoy thundered into Mabla like a rolling storm. Dust spiraled in the air. Horses neighed loudly. The golden banners of Bulunda fluttered like wings of fire. Every villager, old, young, rich, poor, fell to their knees in fear and awe. For generations, people in Mabla only heard stories of the royal army. None imagined they would see it with their own eyes. But today wasn't a normal day. Today was the awakening of destiny. At the front of the convoy stood Elder Jengo, the oldest and most respected member of the Bulunda High Council. His beard was gray as ash, his robe embedded with symbols representing generations of rulers. When he stepped off his decorated chariot, even the animals grew silent. He looked around slowly before his eyes fell on Zubri. And then, the elder bent down on one knee. Your Highness. His deep voice shook the air. We finally found you. Gasps exploded across the village. A prince is always powerful, but a prince recognized publicly by the council. That meant only one thing. Zubri was no longer a hidden heir. He was the rightful ruler. The entire council bowed. Behind them, hundreds of soldiers dropped to one knee. The sight was overwhelming. An ocean of armored men kneeling to a man the village once mocked. Chief Mwana fainted on the ground. The villagers trembled in terror. Even Amina covered her mouth in shock. Zubri inhaled slowly, letting the wind carry away the last pieces of the poor man he once was. With the entire village watching, Elder Jengo rose and addressed the crowd. People of Mabala, he boomed. You have lived beside a king and treated him as a beggar. The villagers trembled. You insulted him, humiliated him, denied him dignity. Yet he is the son of King Baraka, the rightful ruler of Bulunda. Whispers rippled. But how? Why was he here? Why didn't we know? What happens now? Elder Jengo continued. When the palace was attacked years ago, Prince Zubri was smuggled away. His guardians hid him in this village, waiting for the day he would rise. And that day, Zubri added quietly, came the moment I was mocked for loving a woman. The village lowered their heads in shame. Chief Mwana, having regained consciousness, crawled on his knees towards Zubri. Your Highness, I was blind. Forgive me, please forgive me. Zubri looked at him, stone-faced. You judged me as a poor man. Now you kneel before me as a king. The chief sobbed. I didn't know. If I had known. Zubri raised a hand. That is the problem. You only respect a man when he has power. The chief froze. The council murmured in agreement. Then Elder Jengo spoke coldly. In Bulunda, it is a crime to humiliate royalty, even unknowingly. The villagers panicked. Amina gasped. No, please, don't punish my father. He was wrong, but he is just trapped in old traditions. The chief grabbed her arm. Amina, don't speak for me. But Zuberi raised his hand again. Silence fell. His voice came out deep and controlled. I will not use my power for revenge. But the village must learn a lesson. The villagers bowed in gratitude. But Chief Mwana, Zuberi continued, must face consequences, not for rejecting a prince, but for insulting a man's dignity. The chief's face twisted in fear. What do you wish me to do, Your Highness? Zuberi stepped forward until he stood directly before him. Give the entire village a public apology. Admit your arrogance, admit your mistake, and pledge that no man will ever be judged by poverty again. Chief Mwana had no choice. He bowed deeply. I accept. The villagers murmured approval. They knew Mwana deserved this humiliation. When the crowd dispersed, Amina approached Zuberi, slow, hesitant, unsure of where she now stood. He looked at her with softer eyes. You are quiet, he said. Amina bit her lip. I'm overwhelmed. All this time, you lived as a poor man. All this time, I never knew who you truly were. Zuberi lifted her chin gently. I didn't hide from you, Amina. I hid from the world. A single tear slid down her cheek. Do you still feel the same? Even now that you're a prince, and I'm just the daughter of a foolish chief. Zuberi's voice dropped to a whisper. I loved you when I had nothing. I love you now even as I gain everything. Amina's breath trembled. But, does the council approve? Will the kingdom accept me? She was shaking, fearful of losing him now more than ever. That was when Elder Django stepped close. He studied Amina with wise, old eyes. Child, he said gently, the prince needs a queen with a pure heart, not a rich father. Amina gasped. Django smiled. And your heart is purer than gold. Amina burst into tears, relief, love, disbelief all crashing together. Zuberi cupped her face. You are enough. More than enough. As the village celebrated, a soldier ran to Elder Django urgently. Elder, we have news. Django frowned. What news? The traitors who destroyed King Baraka's palace. They have discovered the prince's return. A cold wind swept through the village. Amina's smile faded. Zuberi's jaw tightened. And they are marching here, the soldier whispered. With an army. The villagers gasped. Amina clutched Zuberi's arm. Zuberi, what does this mean? His eyes darkened like a rising thunderstorm. It means the time to hide is over. My past is coming for me, and I must face it. The council bowed their heads. The villagers trembled. Amina held onto him tightly, and Zuberi stood tall, no longer a poor man, no longer a hidden heir, but a king preparing for war. The village did not sleep that night. Every house was lit, every door half open, every whisper floating on the wind carrying one question. Who exactly is this poor man, who was never poor? But inside the chief's compound, Ao, Nia, and the chief himself sat together in a heavy silence. Torches flickered on the walls, shadows stretched like long fingers, and the weight of truth finally settled on every heart. Chief Dlamini leaned forward, voice trembling. Ao, the moment I looked into your eyes tonight, I knew. You resemble him, your father. Ao nodded slowly. I am his son. The chief exhaled shakily, as if releasing years of buried guilt. Years ago, when Ao's father, King Adewale's trusted general, was betrayed by corrupt ministers, his wife and child disappeared during the chaos. No one knew where they went. Some believed they fled, some believed they died, but the truth was far simpler, and far sadder. Ao looked directly at the chief. You found us at the edge of the river when the attackers came. You saved us, but my mother was injured. She died a week later. You promised to protect me and you did. Chief Dlamini nodded, shame filling his eyes. I raised you in secret because the enemies of your father were searching for you when all was safe. I planned to tell you, but the kingdom fell into civil conflict again. The wrong time always came. Ao gave a long, deep breath. I forgave you years ago. You tried. Nia watched the two men, her heart torn. She had loved Ao as a poor man, but now she was looking at the hidden prince of a fallen kingdom. The man she loved was far more than she had ever imagined. Suddenly, a loud horn sounded outside the village. Boom! One horn, then a second, then pounding footsteps shaking the ground. The chief and Ao rushed outside. At the edge of the village, soldiers in dark armor were marching in formation, carrying torches and weapons. The same faction that betrayed Ao's family long ago, the traitors who wanted the royal bloodline wiped out. Their leader stepped forward, raising a flaming torch. Give us the boy, he shouted. We know the last prince is here. The villagers trembled. Women clutched their children. Men held spears but their hands shook. The traitor leader continued. If you hide him, we burn the village to ashes. Silence. Not a single villager moved. And then, unexpectedly, it was the same villagers who once mocked Ao who stepped forward first. The fishermen, the potters, the farmers, even the drunk who once laughed the loudest when Ao proposed. One of them shouted, "We protect our own." Another, "That boy helped us when he had nothing. Now we stand for him." Ao felt his chest tighten. These were the people who once saw him as nothing, yet they now stood between him and death. Nia grabbed Ao's hand. "We fight together." But Ao stepped forward alone. And then, a massive roar shook the air. Whoosh! A helicopter burst over the tree line, its blade slicing the wind, lights blinding everyone below. The villagers gasped and stumbled back. Even the enemy soldiers froze in shock. The helicopter descended slowly, landing right in front of Ao. The door swung open. A tall man stepped out, eyes sharp, clothes royal, presence commanding. "Prince Ao," he said with respect, "the kingdom awaits your return." Ao stared hard. "General Okoro, my father's right hand." The general nodded. "I searched for you for 18 years. Tonight, the throne rises again." The traitor soldiers panicked. Their leader dropped his torch and fled. His men followed, running into the darkness like shadows chased by light. The villagers erupted in cheers. Ao turned to Nia, heart pounding. "My life will never be simple again, but I want you with me." Nia smiled through tears. "I loved you before the truth. I love you after it." Ao lifted her hand, kissed it gently, and whispered, "Then come with me. Let's begin our new destiny." And with that, as the villagers celebrated and the helicopter lights illuminated the night sky, the poor man who was never poor, returned home as a prince, and he took with him the woman, who believed in him before the world did. The village would never forget the night their laughter turned into awe, and the truth shook the world.